A brand new western from the creator of Bone Tomahawk has just been announced, called The Brigands of Rattlecreek. So let's take a look at everything we know so far about the film. So to fully understand the anticipation building for the Brigands of Rattlecreek, it's important to first appreciate the massive popularity of Bone Tomahawk, a 2015 western horror starring Kurt Russell, who plays a small-town sheriff in the 1890s that leads a posse on a rescue mission to save a group of townspeople who've been abducted by a tribe of cannibalistic savages. Now, as peculiar as this concept might sound, Bone Tomahawk ended up being an unforgettable genre-bending western, thanks to its gripping performances, tense story, and brutal violence, ultimately becoming a modern cult classic. And this was all thanks to its writer and director S. Craig Zahler, who wrote Bone Tomahawk on a whim while trying to adapt his own western novel, Wraiths of the Broken Land. On top of this, Bone Tomahawk also happened to be his directorial debut, which proved so impressive that he went on to direct and write bigger budget crime films such as Brawl in Cell Block 99 and Dragged Across Concrete. But for whatever reason, Zahler never returned to the genre that made him so famous, and no recent western has really been able to scratch that Bone Tomahawk itch. However, it seems that's all about to change, because prior to making Bone Tomahawk, S. Craig Zahler wrote another original western script in the vein of Bone Tomahawk called The Brigands of Rattlecreek, which has been garnering interest in Hollywood for more than 20 years, with both Warner Brothers and Amazon attached to it at different stages. In fact, the script is so highly rated that it's topped the famous Blacklist, an annual survey of the top-rated unproduced screenplays in the film industry, which in the past has featured big hits like The Revenant, Slumdog Millionaire, and The King's Speech. So it seemed as if it was only a matter of time before The Brigands of Rattlecreek got made, and at long last it's finally confirmed, as the famous South Korean director Park Chan-Wook has opted to make it his next film, having previously directed critically acclaimed films such as Oldboy and The Handmaiden. And he seems like a perfect choice, as his films all tend to be gritty, suspenseful affairs that don't shy away from violence, which is exactly the expertise you need to direct a Bone Tomahawk style western. And although The Brigands of Rattlecreek is an independent film, it will reportedly have a considerable budget north of $60 million. It also boasts a genuinely impressive cast made up of big names like Matthew McConaughey, Pedro Pascal, and Austin Butler. But McConaughey will be the lead, reportedly playing a sheriff who teams up with a doctor to seek revenge against a group of bandits who killed his wife, while using the cover of a torrential thunderstorm to rob and terrorize the occupants of his small town. So unsurprisingly, it sounds very similar to the core concept of Bone Tomahawk, and based on Zahler's previous work, it will likely be very pulpy, bleak, and uncompromisingly violent, which is exactly what fans will be hoping for. So as it stands, The Brigands of Rattlecreek is currently in pre-production, with principal photography expected to begin early next year. This means that if we're lucky, it could release before the end of 2027, and when it does, it's expected to have a wide theatrical release, so it could well be one of the biggest westerns to come out in quite a while. But it will have a lot of competition in the next year or so, as there's a lot of westerns heading our way, which you can hear all about in this video right here.